welcome on back. I'm Dr. P. Hill, and we got two people here tonight that just live in constant denial. So tell me, are you riveting a tall tale to a tabernacle, or is just a piccolo and a pumpkin pie? I've never not been able to fix the people that I've dated, and this is no exception. You think you can shake a pop on a Tuesday and sprinkle a Sunday? Yes. Well, I'll be a shopping cart in a supermarket. Are you gonna fill me up? I tolerate it. Skippy Jiffy, you take your Peter Pan Crunchy or right? It's really just a mystery to me. I think she's just trying to make up for the fact that she looks like a man in a costume. Now that's irredeemable. Vowels are just consonants if you sound them out with a silly straw. No, it's not irredeemable. I can fix him. Hey now. Well, we're out of time. This show is brought to you by Power Budget TCG. Subscribe!
Regna the Redeemer. For 5 and a white, you get a 4/4 legendary creature Angel with flying that says at the beginning of each end step, if your team gain life this turn, create 2 1/1 white warrior creature tokens. And they also partner with Krav the Unredeemed. Krav the Unredeemed. For 4 and a black, you get a 3/3 legendary creature Demon that says you can pay a black and sacrifice X creatures. Then target player draws X cards and gains X life. Then you put X +1/+1 counters on Krav the Unredeemed.
This deck is like the United States military-industrial complex. They both require a huge resource investment to begin setting up, but once you get it up, it's gonna benefit immensely from the death and despair of innocence for the pursuit of what really matters. More resources. What does it matter that the little guy gets burned? We get all the benefits. These two feed into each other like a codependent relationship. Regna provides the sacrifice fodder, while Krav converts their bodies into power, life, card draw, and some neat decorative toothpicks that we're actually trying to sell, so if you have a moment for our... That will give us an engine, where the payoff is unadulterated value. But then we go on to adulterate that value by throwing down some interesting and unique aristocratic payoffs. We end up ramping really hard in this deck so we can sandbag on earlier turns, which will put our commanders out with protection to spare. And once they're out, oh boy, the fear in our opponent's quivering breath is palpable. Regna's ability happens on the end step. Every end step. So each time the table says the word pass, you actually gotta say, hold on, before we move to your end step, and then you sacrifice the 2 warriors that you made to Krav for just 1 black mana. So if you end up keeping 3 black mana open, you'll be able to activate Krav on everybody's turn. That will draw you 2 cards, make Krav 2 points stronger, 2 points tougher, and gain you 2 life. And since Krav gained you life on their turn, when they finally make it to the end step, you'll get 2 more of Regna's catfish dates showing up, adding more B-roll to their Battlebond snuff film. And the more witnesses, the better in this case, because each of the pieces of this deck are exceedingly brutal and punish our opponents, who for the most part are just held captive to this horror film. I fit some surprising value into a deck that only costs $30 as of recording, and I'm about to show you exactly why you would probably never notice anyway. Unlike this segue. This is not $30. Well, of course not. Shipping still costs something. Yeah, but $80? $80? Oh, you're not using Manapool. Manapool? Yeah, Manapool. Our channel's affiliate. I keep getting asked what the best way to buy decks is, and I did some research for my Discord members. I tested all the sites that I thought were standard, and then I saw Manapool. I never heard of them, so I tested them out. They were so easy to use that I reached out to them just so I could be affiliated with them. Every issue I've had with other sites was essentially fixed with Manapool. They have a better store market, so you don't have to deal with forced price minimums. They have a live card optimizer that will give you multiple options for purchases, whether you care about packages, price, or both. Not to mention they have a market of millions of cards, so you can find pretty much all the cards you'll ever need for your deck. I have been blown away by how efficient, clean, and friendly they are, and their customer service was amazing too. So if you want to buy this deck or any of the many decks that I built for this channel, then you can always find a link in the video description. It's the best Magic market I have ever experienced. Full stop.
Bender's Water Skin. For 3 mana, you get an artifact that says untap this artifact during each other player's untap step, and you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color.
I'm glad they printed this in common because it's like 30 cents at the moment. This is essentially just a victory chimes, but a color. And that means with Krav, we no longer worry about what we're gonna have to feed the children tonight. Instead, we'll just feed the children to the demon for free. And since this is any color, we can also use it for the protection that we hold up just in case we need to stop people from butting into our feasting time. Crixon of Yawgmoth gives us similar value by letting us give up some life as a buy-in, but we're literally going to gain 2 life back as long as we're doing it with the 2 warriors. It's honestly a net even, except not, because the deck is really built in a way that'll give you a lot more life every time you sacrifice a creature, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. Let's pump the brakes for a second. I mentioned before that we have a good amount of ramp to dedicate to sandbagging early, and that's just because we have a special situation on our hands. Our commanders can provide all the value on their own and dig you really far into the deck, so getting them out ASAP is crucial to the game plan. From my experience, you should absolutely get Regna the Redeemer out first and then do Krav once you get something that you can sacrifice to gain life from, or just have a way to gain life. That way you'll at least have 2 extra mana to gain from Krav's ability and draw 4 additional cards. So do that instead, because if you do Krav first then Regna, you're essentially going to be waiting 3 full turn cycles before you can do anything, which is going to put both of them into the open with no chance at protection. And that would be a feel bad if people keep bolting your things just before you get the chance to use them. You can do whatever you want though, I'm not your parole officer. This is the way I recommend it because essentially you're waiting 1 full turn, hoping they don't remove Regna, and then you get Krav out with the chance at protection. But due to all the mana rocks I put in here, both can absolutely be out before you end turn 5. But you could be unlucky. You might not always get it out there, but turn 5, 6, maybe 7, that will be usually when you get them out. It could even be on turn 4 if Regna liked it and decided to put a ring on it. We also have a pretty good protection package. We got a smattering of different low-cost protection spells like Blacksmith's Skill that give hexproof and indestructible. I wanted to have as many reasonable effects that can give both of those, but also end up utilizing a bunch of spells that grant just protection, because if you give Krav protection, you can just swing them in. That way if we get too much protection in hand, we can use the gains protection from color spells to give Krav, who has now been bulked up on creatine and the will to live, protection from somebody's colors, and then send him behind enemy lines on a debt-fueled rampage. That's a rules joke, nothing but the best from me. Ho ho! But it is genuinely a last resort. We don't even need to swing with Krav at all, even though it is very tempting. In this monster mash, we prefer to kill from above the table and kiss their life totals directly. Mwah.
Agent of the Iron Throne. For 2 into black, you get a legendary enchantment background that says commander creatures you own have, whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life.
This card is absolutely disgusting because it doesn't just trigger off of one of yous, it triggers off of both of yous. All the backgrounds are awesome considerations when you have any partner commanders. All of them give commander creatures you own the ability, which means if you have 2 commanders, there are now 2 creatures on your field with that ability. So for each creature you have that dies, or artifact, yeah, you get to ping each of your opponents for 2 life. So in the case of our hellish heroes, we get 2 creatures each time anyone ends the turn, which in turn is 2 life gain for us, 2 cards, 2 counters, and 4 damage to each opponent. An absolutely whopping 8 cards, 8 life, 8 counters, and 16 damage every time we take the turn cycle, as long as we have the mana for it. That's the kind of value that this deck thrives on. And since we get so many new cards every single turn cycle, we will usually have more pieces just like this to add on to the hurt. Nothing is quite as good as Agent of the Iron Throne. Well, I mean, nothing except Mirkwood Bats. This baddie will ping the dickens out of everyone for every token that we make or sacrifice. So that would be another 16 damage, just like Agent of the Iron Throne. This bat gets exterminated almost every single time it hits the field, so if you have some way to protect it, I'd absolutely try your best to keep it. But we don't care as much about the others, so here we go. So Syrian Voidborn will target somebody for every death and gets to warp their way to battle if we are desperate. We won't be. Nadier's Nightblade will even out the damage, but is only going to look at the tokens you control. Really funny if you get treasures, not gonna lie. Veto will usually just be 2 for 2, but if we can add that magical third in, now we're making another creature every single turn, and you get to win faster. Embalmed Descendant gives us a creature to sacrifice in order to start this engine, which ironically enough, actually will start our engines. And when we activate Krav on our turn, we get to speed up, including the turn it comes out. Eventually, that'll start draining the table. Point is, there are plenty of other ways that we can drain everyone at once. For the most part, we don't want to have the creatures that specifically drain one target. We are an equal opportunity murderer. I'm sorry, I looked over your resume, and based on the interview, I feel the company's murder goals just don't quite align with you and what you bring to the death pit. I knew I should have sold my soul to the clown. Don't worry about applying in the future. It's a policy we don't murder anyone without potential. And for as much as we want to keep this fight fair, we have a few more cards that really tend to challenge people's optimistic outlook on life. So we threw a few cards in that might make this fight so unfair that you'd think that Mr. Krabs was in there, standing at concession, plotting his oppression.
Requiem Angel. For 5 and a white, you get a 5/5 creature angel with flying that says whenever another non-spirit creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. According to Magic the Gathering's rules, section 312.3 word 1 of line 1, phenomenon. That doesn't mean much for us, but what this card means is that we get to sacrifice a warrior, and every single time we do it gets upgraded to a flying spirit. And then if we have creatures that do our aristocrats based upon entering rather than dying, we've just doubled up our triggers, and now we have some amazing blockers that can keep the skies clear of threats. And if we get really desperate, we can fill up our hand with a little more zhuzh. Dailies lets us make 2 more spirits if we're careful with how we order our end of turn stuff, and to be really honest, is a very useful creature to sacrifice if we really don't have a way to gain life yet. I've done it. It worked. Fanatical Devotion is a fun way to make people sad. While regenerating does nothing to exile removal, it still stifles any plans at destroying our commanders. And if a board wipe is cast, then we can sacrifice the 2 creatures that we make every single turn to save our commanders. It's usually enough to make people wish they didn't agree to this pod. But if they need a little bit more convincing, then we still have Divine Visitation. With this fun nugget of 5 mana joy, we get to make every single creature Regna makes into a 4/4 angel with both flying and vigilance. That's gonna really shiver some booties when we put that mess down, but it has a fun interaction with another card in this deck too. Remember that Requiem Angel? Yeah, if we get Divine Visitation to hold hands on the battlefield with that angel, then every single time we sacrifice a creature, we get to make a new set of spirits. And since those spirits are creature tokens as well, we just end up making more angels, which when they die are not spirits and will replace themselves with more spirits which get turned into angels. So if we have that crick out and any aristocrats ping outlet, and that's pretty much an infinite loop, and you draw your deck until everyone dies, or you do, honestly, I don't know. And if you have Pitiless Plunderer, then you can just use the treasure that it makes to infinitely loop without life, making it genuinely possible to win no matter what, because you can then force people to draw their decks, because Krav targets. You can target an opponent, so that'll draw their entire deck, and you could do that for everybody. But Pitiless Plunder is $1.50. It's cheap. It's not my current main deck. What does that mean? Oh no, the upgrades have breached containment. Grave Pact. For 1 black, you get an enchantment that says whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature.
them. They don't deserve creatures unless they run token decks, and there's no way they're going to have a board available with this one on the field. Every single time the turn ends, they have to sacrifice 2 creatures, and you stay very much where you want to be creature-wise. That is cruel and unusual. The best kind of punishment. I'd replace Call the Bloodline with this card. Vindictive Vampire is good, but the older Vita would be way better. Now with all of our life gain from not only Krav, but the other Aristocrat species, we get to target one particular soul and really harsh their mellow. Functionally, you could also just use Sanguine Bond, but Vito is a creature, which is a little bit better here since we can sacrifice him in order to start the engine if we're really desperate. Otherwise, we have the 5 mana, we could just swing with a token and start that life chain game thing and get this party really started in Ha. If you're not into 4/4 flying Vigilant Angels, then you could just change the game with Bolas's Citadel instead. With the absurd amount of life that you'll be gaining, you can just life cast as many cards from the top of your library as you possibly can, and then stop once you get to your second land drop, or an instant speed protection piece. Never let them know your next move. Bring it over. Bring it over. Hey, so where are you moving to anyway? You'll never find out. Okay. And finally, I would be very remiss not to mention Meat Hook Massacre and Anointed Procession. They both run a hefty price tag, but don't necessarily have to go in, honestly. Anointed will double up on any token that you make, which is a fun little win more kind of card, and the Meat Hook will punish people for watching this madhouse, and also let you wipe the board if you have the mana investment. I'm not really sure what I'd take out for these, but like, I guess Meat Hook probably best slot in for an Aristocrats piece. Anointed Procession is good, but like, I don't know what's a good replacement for. But hey, sometimes the best way to learn is to just make a decision and experiment, and then mess it up. And what's the worst that can happen? You take out all the land? Yeah, don't do that.
And if you've already subscribed and want to more directly support the channel, you can always become a member. You get access to all the bloopers and behind the scenes, and also receive some special perks like our decklist tier members. Yeah, plural now, with Filthy Casual and Picard 001. This tier has access to the decklist request channel on the Discord and gets my biggest thank yous. Then we have our higher power members, Jennifer Griffith, Ezelvor, Faraday, Angela Ryder, White Chill, Christopher Kusaba, Philoppa, Charles, Peanut Butter Steve, A-Train, Hayao, and all of our amazing budget supporters. And a lot of you missed the last video with Sammy and their Artifact Chaos, so I would absolutely check the linked video, because if you haven't seen that intro, trust me when I say it's some of my best editing to date. Yeah, check it out.